Good morning, Pastor Steve in beautiful Visalia, California, in the Central Valley of California. Having a beautiful morning here weather-wise, and this is Happy Thoughts. We are discussing forgiveness, the 4 steps of forgiveness from Desmond Tutu and other folks, and we're on step 3 today, which is forgiving, the actual step of forgiving. So a couple of clarifications quickly. In all of the steps, including forgiveness, there isn't instantaneous results. These things can take a very long time, and oftentimes you have to double back and travel the 4 steps over and over and over many times until the work finally takes seed in your heart and you enjoy the fruits of being able to let go. With that said, let's talk about step 3, which is forgiveness. After you have told your story and named the hurt, then it's time to forgive. Forgiveness is actually a gift of the Holy Spirit. It isn't necessarily a product of our will, or at least in most cases, it has to be given by the Holy Spirit. And the language cannot fit the reality of it, but here's how it goes. We have to put ourselves in a place where we truly desire to be able to forgive, for the Holy Spirit to be able to do its work fully. And that process goes like this. The first thing that we have to do when we're on step 3, ready to try and practice forgiveness, is to make a covenant with God of our own free will, right? And the covenant is pretty much standard. It would fit almost all situations. And that is that we promise God, because we want the gift of forgiveness, that we will not engage in talking poorly about the person or people that have hurt us unnecessarily. If you have to witness in a court of law or whatever, you just tell the truth. But we won't backstab, we won't gossip, we won't whisper into people's ears. You don't know them like I do, because all of that's really icky and toxic behavior anyway. So we limit ourselves that way. In addition, when we make the covenant with God, the covenant is internal. So we say to God, when it comes up, right, when that feeling comes up and I'm triggered either by seeing the person or by somebody else acting like them, I'm not going to just let it go out of control. I'm not going to give the anger and the shame and whatever else has been engendered. I'm not going to give it free rein. I am pledging that in those instances, I will stop and I will be in prayer, and I will ask you to give the Holy Spirit to calm me down. And really, it is true to say that if your idea of how the Holy Spirit works doesn't include that the Spirit is able to do its work most effectively through people whose intent and will is to please God and to do what He said, then I think maybe you should revisit that, because that is how the Holy Spirit is able to gain entree. So you make a covenant with God, right? A practical covenant, saying you're not going to speak poorly to people. If there's an opportunity for revenge, you're not going to take that revenge. You're going to choose to leave it alone. Let it be in the past. And if it festers, you're going to put yourself in front of the throne and you're going to pray and ask God to calm you. You're going to maybe rehearse the steps that you're taking to that point. It just takes a while, right? But you practice forgiveness. You get good at no longer letting the memory or the person's presence in your life invade your peace and the sanctuary of your heart. And you do get good at it. Like any skill set, right? You practice and you practice and you practice. And if you're obedient to the covenant that you make with God, which is being obedient to what God has asked of us, over time, you get good, not at just ignoring things, but at dealing with them by prayer and by not making them worse or seeding them deeper through actions that are toxic and most likely actions that are very much like your enemies or the people that have hurt you. So forgiveness is a free will decision that we offer up to God, asking Him to bless us in our intent to stop the actions of unforgiveness and to do those things until we live into a time when the forgiveness takes seed and we're free. I have people who have harmed me a great deal that I have been able to forgive so that even the memory is not disturbing to me anymore. And I have some people that I am constantly working on this step of making sure I don't allow myself to say negative things or trying to curb those things, because I just haven't practiced it enough and I haven't been able to release it yet. I'm content to continue to practice the 4 steps rather than give up on them, because I know from when I have forgiven what the fruits are and what the benefits are. So these are good things I hope for you to think about. We'll finish up this kind of series next week by talking about making the decision to renew or release. So for this week, if you're in a place where you've done the first two steps and you feel satisfied with that, I would invite you to write out, literally in your diary or some private place, your covenant with God, and make sure that the things you promise you're going to stop doing, or sometimes start doing if you haven't been honoring them, or whatever the case might be, right? Write down the things that you're going to do to practice forgiveness, and then simply ask God to bless you with the power of His Holy Spirit when you're in those modes. Be patient. The things of God are eternal, and so to human beings, sometimes it seems like it takes a very, very long time, but God is faithful, and in His time and in His way, and especially when we're open up to His will, He does what He says He will do. He sets the captive free. And when we carry old wounds and harm inside of us, we are indeed captive to our past. So be free, my friends. Really, right? Get yourself free. Practice these 4 steps. Make the determination that you don't want to live the way that you might have been living before internally, keeping score and holding old enemies, and embrace what God has promised. That's Happy Thoughts for today. Surprisingly short. I'm going to try to learn how to limit my wanderings. We'll talk about renew or release next week. I hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you, and God bless.